Hello family, welcome to Stories by Rain. Please subscribe, like, leave a comment, and share this video with your friends and loved ones. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss my future videos. Thank you so much for your support. Let us dive into the story. The city pulsed with life, the golden afternoon sun painting skyscrapers in hues of amber and honey. Amara weaved through the crowded streets, her camera slung over her shoulder, still buzzing with adrenaline from covering a major press conference. She had planned to grab a quick coffee before heading home, but something about the air felt different. Electric, charged as if the universe had decided this day would be unlike any other. The hum of the city blurred into background noise as she approached the crosswalk. Her thoughts were scattered, her focus drifting from the towering architecture to the vibrant sea of strangers around her. And that's when she saw him. On the other side of the street, he stood like an anchor in the chaos, his tailored suit sculpted to perfection over his tall, lean frame. His dark hair caught the sunlight just enough to give it a sheen, and his posture exuded quiet confidence. Yet, it wasn't his polished appearance that made her stop mid-step. It was his eyes, piercing and unwavering, his gaze locked onto hers across the ebb and flow of the crowd. Her breath hitched, and the bustling city seemed to fade away. There was something hauntingly familiar about him, though she couldn't place where she might have seen him before. His expression wasn't one of curiosity or even attraction. It was recognition, as if he had been searching for her, waiting for this precise moment. On the other side of the street, Li Wei, once Wei Liang, felt the world tilt on its axis. His heart clenched as he took her in. She was here, standing only a few feet away after centuries of longing and lifetimes of searching. Her modern clothes and hair were different from the way he remembered, but her essence was unchanged. Her presence hit him like a tidal wave, drowning him in memories of laughter, promises, and heartbreak. His black jewel. The light turned green. The crowd surged forward, breaking their connection for a fleeting moment. Amara hesitated, her feet glued to the ground as her pulse thundered in her ears. She didn't understand why her chest felt tight, why she couldn't look away from the stranger who seemed to know her so intimately. The invisible pull between them was undeniable, as if the universe itself was drawing them together. Li Wei moved first, weaving through the throng of pedestrians with purpose. Amara, compelled by an instinct she couldn't explain, followed. By the time they stood face to face, the city noise had dulled to a hum, leaving only the pounding of her heart. "Amara," he said, his voice low and steady, yet laced with an emotion that sent a shiver down her spine. The way he said her name made her stomach flip. How do you know my name?" she asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and unease. Li Wei's chest tightened, a lifetime of emotions threatening to spill over. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "It's a long story," he said softly, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "One I've been waiting a very long time to tell." Amara's brows knitted together, her journalist instincts sparking to life. "Do I know you?" she asked, her tone tinged with skepticism. "You did," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "A long time ago." Her breath hitched again. There was something about his voice, his eyes, that sent memories she couldn't grasp fluttering at the edge of her consciousness. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice almost inaudible. Li Wei took a deep breath, the weight of centuries resting on his shoulders. "Someone who has loved you for lifetimes. Someone who promised to find you, no matter how far or how long it took." His words sent a wave of inexplicable emotion crashing over her. The jade pendant around his neck caught the light, drawing her gaze. It looked eerily familiar, like something she had seen in a dream. Her hand instinctively went to her wrist, brushing against the infinity mark etched into her skin. Her heart raced as a strange sense of déjà vu washed over her. The city around them disappeared entirely, leaving only the two of them tethered together by a bond that defied logic, time, and space. Amara stared into his eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why do I feel like I know you?" Li Wei's smile softened, and he reached out, his fingers trembling as they hovered just above her hand. "Because you do," he said. "You've always known me, just as I've always known you." Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, though she couldn't explain why. For the first time in years, the ache in her chest eased, replaced by a flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Despite her initial apprehension, Amara found herself unable to shake the inexplicable pull she felt toward him. The way he spoke her name, the way his eyes seemed to hold entire lifetimes, left her both unnerved and intrigued. So when he offered to explain over coffee, she hesitated only briefly before nodding. Her curiosity, fueled by the strange magnetism between them, outweighed her caution. They walked in silence to a nearby cafe, the hum of the city around them fading into the background. Once inside, they chose a quiet corner table. The cafe's warm light reflected off the dark wood, and the clinking of cups provided a soothing rhythm. But Amara's pulse was anything but calm. Li Wei studied her across the table, his gaze steady but his movements careful, as though afraid to shatter the delicate moment. He began with questions, his voice calm yet probing. "Tell me about your life," he asked. "What brought you here?" Amara spoke of her career, her family, and the strange restlessness that had followed her all her life. She talked about her recurring dreams, fleeting images of a lantern-lit sky, a jade pendant, and whispers of a name she couldn't recall. "Sometimes I feel like I'm searching for something," she confessed, "but I don't even know what." The more they spoke, the more Amara felt at ease. His presence was strangely familiar, like a melody she had once known by heart, but forgotten the lyrics to. Yet there was something about him that kept her on edge, a nagging feeling that there was more to his story than he was letting on. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Li Wei leaned forward, his hands clasped loosely on the table. His voice dropped to a near whisper, carrying a weight that made her breath hitch. "Do you believe in a love transcends lifetimes?" Amara blinked, caught off guard. "I've never really thought about it," she admitted, her voice uncertain. "Why?" His gaze didn't waver. "Because I believe we've met before," he said, his tone steady but charged with emotion. "In another lifetime." Amara let out a nervous laugh, but it died in her throat when she saw the intensity in his eyes. "You're serious?" "I am," he replied, rolling up his sleeve to reveal a faint infinity mark on his wrist. The delicate symbol seemed to glow under the cafe's soft light. "Does this mean anything to you?" Amara's heart stopped. Her hands trembled as she slowly pushed up her own sleeve, revealing an identical mark etched into her skin. I've had this my whole life," she whispered. "I always thought it was just a birthmark." Li Wei's expression softened, his voice turning gentle. "It's more than that. It's a promise we made to each other, a vow that time and distance could never break." A rush of emotions overtook her. Confusion, disbelief, and something deeper, a pull that resonated with the very core of her being. Before she could speak, flashes of images flooded her mind. The glow of lanterns, the scent of jasmine, the warmth of his hand in hers. She gasped, clutching the edge of the table as tears filled her eyes. "What's happening to me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're remembering," Li Wei said, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "Piece by piece, it's all coming back to you." In the days that followed, Li Wei and Amara became inseparable. He gently guided her through the fragments of her past, taking her to places that mirrored their shared memories. a serene park that reminded her of the Imperial Garden, a quiet riverbank where they could sit in silence. Each moment brought new flashes, his voice calling her Black Jewel, the feel of his arms around her, the crushing despair of their parting. One evening, as they walked along the river, Amara stopped abruptly. Her breath hitched, and she clutched her wrist where the infinity mark seemed to pulse with warmth. Tears streamed down her face as she turned to him. "I remember," she said, her voice breaking. "I remember everything." Li Wei's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he stepped closer. "Then you know why I've spent lifetimes searching for you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Amara nodded, reaching out to touch his cheek, her hand trembling. "I felt it too, even when I didn't understand it. I always knew there was someone waiting for me. I just didn't know it was you." Li Wei pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she might vanish again. "We've waited long enough," he murmured, his voice fierce with determination. "This time, I won't let anything take you away from me." Amara clung to him, the weight of centuries lifting from her heart. For the first time in her life, the ache, the longing, the emptiness, all of it was gone. In its place was a sense of completeness she had only dreamed of. Together, they stood beneath the starlit sky, their bond unbroken, their love timeless. After their emotional reunion, Amara and Li Wei began the delicate process of weaving their shared past into the fabric of their present. While their connection transcended lifetimes, they both understood that their love needed roots in this world, a foundation to ground them in a reality where memories of the past could only take them so far. One evening, Li Wei extended an invitation to his private estate, a sanctuary far removed from the bustling city. The estate was sprawling and serene, with lush gardens that seemed to stretch endlessly and a tranquil lake that mirrored the starlit sky. Amara couldn't help but feel a strange familiarity as they walked through the lantern-lit pathways. The soft glow of the lanterns and the gentle rustling of leaves stirred something deep within her, a sense so strong it made her heart ache. "I wanted to bring you here," Li Wei said, his hand warm and steady in hers. "This is where I've kept our story alive. Away from the noise of the world, I've been waiting for you." Amara's breath caught as they reached a small pavilion overlooking the lake. In the center of the pavilion was a stone table, and upon it sat a chest that looked as though it had weathered the passage of time. The anticipation in Li Wei's eyes was palpable as he opened the chest, revealing its contents: a jade pendant identical to the one he wore, sketches of the infinity mark, and pages of old letters written in a script she could barely remember but instinctively understood. "These," Li Wei began, his voice trembling slightly, "are the pieces I've held on to all these years. They've been my connection to you, my proof that what we had was real." Amara reached for the pendant, her fingers brushing against its cool surface. The weight of it felt both foreign and familiar, like a key to a door she had only just realized existed. "You kept all of this?" she asked, her voice breaking under the weight of emotion. "I couldn't let go," Li Wei admitted, his gaze unwavering. "Even when I didn't know if I'd find you, these were all I had left of you. They were my lifeline, Amara." Tears welled in her eyes, spilling over as she spoke. "I don't have anything like this," she whispered. "I didn't even know who I was searching for until I saw you." Li Wei reached out, his thumb gently brushing her tears away. "You've always had something," he said softly, placing her hand over her heart. "It's always been here. That's why you felt what you did, why no one else ever felt right. Your soul remembered, even when your mind couldn't." The weight of his words shattered the last remnants of doubt in Amara's heart. She leaned into him, their foreheads touching as the world around them seemed to disappear. "I'm ready to remember everything now," she murmured. "Not just the past, but who we are in this lifetime." That night, They decided to renew the promise they had made centuries ago, this time in a way that merged their shared history with their present reality. Instead of the ancient tools of their past life, they visited a modern tattoo studio. The artist, unaware of the profound significance of the design, worked meticulously to recreate their infinity marks. Amara suggested incorporating a flowing river into the design, symbolizing their journey through time and the currents that had carried them back to one another. Li Wei added a pattern of delicate lotus petals, representing rebirth and renewal. As the needle buzzed and the ink etched their skin, Amara's mind drifted to their first marks, created in the quiet intimacy of the Imperial Garden. She could see Wei Liang's steady hand guiding hers, feel the sting of the ink, and hear the whispered vows they had exchanged beneath the willow tree. This time, the pain was fleeting, replaced by an overwhelming sense of fulfillment and clarity. When the work was finished, they admired their matching tattoos, the intricate designs now a permanent part of their lives. Amara ran her fingers over the mark, a mix of awe and disbelief in her eyes. "It's not just a memory anymore," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's a part of who we are now." Li Wei took her hand in his grip firm yet gentle. "It always has been," he replied. "This just makes it official." In the days that followed, their bond only deepened. They spent hours walking through the gardens of Li Wei's estate, sharing stories of their past and their dreams for the future. Amara found herself rediscovering parts of herself she hadn't realized was missing, while Li Wei reveled in the completeness her presence brought him. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Li Wei turned to Amara. "This time," he said, his voice steady with conviction, "we write our own story. No rules, no barriers, just us." Amara smiled, her fingers intertwining with his. "This time," she echoed, "we choose forever." And as the first stars appeared in the night sky, the promise they had carried across lifetimes was renewed, not as a memory, but as a living, breathing truth. Reaffirming their bond wasn't just about revisiting the echoes of their past, it was about stepping boldly into a shared future. Their love, forged across lifetimes, had withstood the trials of time, but now it faced the challenges of the present world. Integrating their lives was no easy task. Amara's work as a journalist demanded constant travel and intense focus, while Li Wei's role as the heir to a global business empire kept him bound to the complexities of family expectations and corporate responsibility. Still, they were determined. Each moment together became a sacred space, a reminder of the extraordinary connection they shared. Whether it was a quiet evening in Li Wei's private estate, or in his penthouse, where they reminisced over fragments of memories that had come rushing back, or an impromptu trip to a quiet park that reminded them of the Imperial Gardens, they found ways to bridge their worlds. One evening, as they sat on the balcony overlooking the glittering city, Li Wei opened up about his family's unyielding expectations. "They've always assumed I'd marry someone from our social circle," he admitted, his voice tinged with frustration. "Someone with the right name, the right connections, someone acceptable." Amara reached for his hand, her fingers intertwining with his. "If we're going to do this," she said softly but firmly, "we have to do it right. No more hiding. No more letting their expectations control us. They need to know who we are and what we mean to each other." Her courage reignited his own. The following week, Li Wei arranged for a formal family dinner, the kind of gathering that usually revolved around business discussions and carefully orchestrated alliances. As they arrived hand in hand, the room fell silent, the weight of his decision hanging in the air. Li Wei wasted no time. "This is Amara," he said, his voice calm but unyielding. "She is the woman I love and the one I intend to spend my life with." The disapproval was palpable. His father's expression hardened, and a murmur swept through the room. "Li Wei," his father said coldly, "you cannot be serious. You know what is expected of you. This woman does not belong in our world." Li Wei straightened, his voice unwavering. "I have lived my entire life for this family. I have fulfilled every expectation and every duty you've placed on me, but I will not sacrifice my heart. Amara is my choice. She always has been, and she always will be." Amara, who had remained silent until then, stepped forward. Her voice was steady, her gaze unwavering. "With all due respect, sir, I understand the weight of expectations. I know what it's like to carry the hopes of your family on your shoulders, but I also know that love, true love, is rare. And when you find it, you fight for it. That's what Li Wei and I are doing." The room fell into a heavy silence. Though his father remained stoic, Li Wei's mother's expression softened ever so slightly. Days turned into weeks, and while the path was not easy, their unwavering resolve began to chip away at the icy walls of his family's resistance. Li Wei's mother was the first to yield. Over time, she grew fond of Amara's kindness and strength, recognizing in her the qualities that had captivated her son. Slowly, she became an unexpected ally, speaking on their behalf and urging the family to reconsider their rigid expectations. Months later, on a cool autumn evening, Li Wei and Amara stood on a terrace overlooking the city, a place that mirrored the terrace where they had first kissed centuries ago. The skyline shimmered with 1,000 lights, a modern reflection of the lantern-lit skies they had once known. Their ceremony was private, a celebration of their shared history and the life they were building together. There were no grand displays, no witnesses save for the stars above. As they faced each other, the weight of their journey was evident in their eyes. Li Wei slipped a delicate jade ring onto Amara's finger, the same shade as the pendant he had given her lifetimes ago. "I found you once," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion, "and I will find you again in every lifetime. No matter where, no matter when, I will always find my way back to you." Amara's eyes glistened with tears as she held his hand tightly. "And I'll wait for you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Even when I don't know I'm waiting, my heart will always know." As their lips met, the world around them seemed to dissolve. The noise of the city faded, the lights blurred into a soft glow, and for a moment, it felt as though they were suspended between worlds, no longer bound by time or place. The infinity marks on their wrists seemed to glow faintly, a symbol of their eternal bond. It wasn't just a memory anymore, or a promise carried across centuries. It was a living, breathing truth, etched into their very beings. And as they stood there, holding each other beneath the endless sky, they knew that this time, their story was theirs to write. Together, they would create a new chapter, a life filled with love, strength, and the unshakable belief that their bond was unbreakable. Their love, once lost to the tides of time, was now a beacon, guiding them forward into a future they would face hand in hand. The end. What did you learn from this story? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you never miss an update. Don't forget to share this video with someone who would love it. Thank you so much for watching.